What's going on? We're about to go into a new episode of the Bigger Than Running podcast on a dedicated YouTube channel. So coming up on this one, we're going to talk about my marathon journey. We're also going to talk about Sydney Marathon as well as Chicago, the whole Chicago experience being out there with my son. We're going to talk about the Nike Vomero Premium as well as the Nike Alphafly 3, which was my Chicago Marathon race day shoe. We're going to talk about the Bob and Brad massage gun as well as give a shout out to my friend Jason's Running and ask you to check his channel out. Let's get on with it. I hope you're well. We're back with the podcast. Now, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, there have been no changes. However, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're on a whole different YouTube channel. I've created a separate YouTube channel because I wanted to separate the podcast from the usual content that you normally see. You see, my viewers were getting somewhat confused, and I could tell by the number of views on the podcast, because at one point, you've got a shoe review, and then you've got a race vlog, and a training vlog, and then suddenly there's a whole hour episode on a podcast on the same channel. Now, channels like Believe in a Run are well established, they get to do this stuff, whereas for me, I noticed that there was a separation and maybe a slight confusion for people that watch my normal videos and then the podcast. My way around that was to create a separate YouTube channel. So this is completely new. If you're listening to the audio-only version, please head over to YouTube and subscribe to this channel. It's exciting to have a new YouTube channel to build, form a new community that is strictly for the podcast as well as any live videos I intend to run, right? With that said, my name is Aubrey. I'm an average runner, simply trying to be less average by the day, and I'm good with being me. As at the time of filming this, I've got 0 subscribers on this YouTube channel. And that feels really refreshing to say because it's a fresh start, it's a new mission, and I'm excited to grow a community around this channel as well. And if you're just coming across this podcast on YouTube, wherever it is, my normal channel is just the Bigger Than Running. This one is Bigger Than Running podcast. So what's coming up on this episode of the podcast? So I recently ran Chicago Marathon and I would like to break down the whole weekend. I want to talk to you about key things that happened, how I found myself in Chicago in the shoe section. Actually, let me run it back so that you know the format. So each podcast episode normally has the main topic. And so for this one, it's Chicago Marathon. I then feature either a running shoe or a piece of tech that is somewhat relevant for that episode. And so for this one, I want to talk Nike. 2 pairs of shoes from the Nike brand that really saw me through the Chicago Marathon weekend. The other bit I want to talk about is Bob and Brad. This is a massage gun that they've sent to me. And for some reason, I feel like the Bob and Brad massage gun is a YouTuber's rite of passage. For you to be fully qualified as a YouTuber, you need to have been sent the Bob and Brad massage gun. So I'm going to unbox it. I don't know anything about it apart from what it is. So I don't know the specs, I don't know how it works, but I'm going to unbox it right in front of you if you're watching. But if you're listening to the audio only, I'll do my best to describe it. But I'm excited to be back with the podcast. It's been running for quite some time, but I took a little pause trying to figure things out, but also concentrating on the training I was doing for Sydney. I think it was the start of the Sydney Marathon block where I took a pause. Now, it wasn't just because of the Sydney Marathon block where I took a pause. Mentally, I was figuring things out. Now, I wasn't in a good place. I'm not going to lie to you, simply because it's very tough putting yourself out there on social media, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, but YouTube is that one place where I've now kind of figured how I'm going to do this. I've figured out that I'm going to do this my way, you know? So in this space, there are some established personalities. With the running shoe reviews, you've got people like your Kofuzis that believe in the runs, Joanna. You've got all these people that do things their way. So when someone like me is trying to figure out how they're going to do things, people will have views. And some of those views kind of hit me really hard and made me start to question my own identity, my own place in this community. And I won't lie to you, I struggled with it. When the Sydney Marathon block came, I did Sydney Marathon with the brand ASICS, and they have a slogan. The slogan is a sound mind in a sound body. And I took time within that training block, not only to lose weight, that's that sound body part, but also focusing on my mental health. How was I going to establish my resilience, establish my own way of thinking to make sure that I'm okay? So I took a pause. In fact, on my main YouTube channel, Bigger Than Running, I'm only catching up to people's comments, people's interactions with the Sydney videos now, simply because I opted to take a break. But now I'm back, having identified who I am, and more importantly, who I want to be, and really kind of leaning into that I'm good with being me. The way I introduce myself, I'm back with this podcast. And I promise you, it is simply because of your support, your continued encouragement to keep this going. And even people message me directly like, Aubrey, what's happening with this podcast? This became something we used to listen to all the time. Can you please get back on it? So with no further ado, let's get back on it. Let's talk about Chicago Marathon. Now, I'm going to share some things that are quite blunt, very honest, and I hope you will appreciate them as such. I don't really want to watch what I say and be careful about what people are going to perceive, what people are going to think. I just want to be downright honest. Let's talk about how I found myself running Chicago Marathon. And for me to do that, let me rewind and talk about the other world majors. I started running, I want to say roughly about 2.5 to 3 years ago. And I mean really running. And I started with the 5K, moved on to doing 10Ks, and I eventually found myself running a half marathon. Now, half marathons are really tough, really tough. I didn't have any intentions of running a marathon up until 2026. But a man called Thomas, who is Believe in the Run, invited me to run my first ever marathon. Now, Adidas gave me a place because I've got a good working relationship with the Adidas brand that it stopped being a brand. The people that work there are now actually friends. I want you to distinguish that bit. Now, I talked to you about people that were trolling me and people that had problems with someone like me being at a marathon, being at a world major, getting a bid. I don't ever now have problems with people having issues with me being there because I know I belong there, but I questioned whether I did. But now I fully know I've earned my place at these majors. It might not be the way, the conventional or the orthodox way of earning a place at a bib, whether that's running a fast time, running through charity. It might not be the normal place, but you know what? I've earned my place there. And allow me to be even bold in saying, some people said, you know what, mate, we really like your videos, but that doesn't mean you should be invited to a world major marathon. Well, why am I invited then? Do you know what I mean? And I really started leaning into, there's a reason why I'm being invited there. There has to be. And if anyone could just be an influencer, a YouTuber, whatever you perceive me to be, why isn't everyone then being invited there? The people that then watch my channel encourage me to say, no. You have earned your place there. There's a reason you're being invited. And so when Thomas then said, you're going to be part of the Believe in the Run team, we're going to run Berlin. Not only are you running that, I'm running with you. That spoke volumes to me. However, I didn't have any intentions of running a marathon. I didn't have intentions of running the world major marathons. Then New York was approaching and Thomas said, I want you to run New York with us. Got in touch with New York Roadrunners, got in touch with the New York Marathon team, and I had a place. That completely blew me away. So I ran Berlin, 4:25. I then run New York. However, running New York, so imagine I ran Berlin September 28th, I want to say 2024. I then ran Oxford Half Marathon in October. I then ran, together with the Mizuno guys, Amsterdam Half Marathon, and then New York came. I ran New York 4:59, and that was a very hard run. Very hard run. Anyway, those were my first two marathons. Together with Mizuno, I then ran in February the Osaka Marathon. And I ran that in 4:47. I told myself from running New York 4:59, I'm going to run every marathon faster. You're going to see where this story takes a turn. Just keep following with me. Osaka Marathon, February, at some point, I can't remember the date, 4:47. With Adidas, they invited me to run Boston Marathon. Now, that was my lowest point as a runner, as a person. When I announced that I'm doing Boston Marathon, out of trying to be transparency, a lot of people had something to say. Simply because of the exclusivity that Boston Marathon seems to have, that you need to run a qualifying time. And because I tried to be empathetic to those that have tried to qualify, I'd started to understand that not everyone was happy about it. And so I'm not going to refuse the opportunity. So I took it. At the same time, I had trained with Runner for Berlin and New York, and I was invited to try out the Cooper app. And I said, actually, yeah, really, really cool. Let's run London together. And those guys invited me to be part of their team. And I ran London Marathon with the Cooper app. So April 21st was Boston, flew back, landed on the Tuesday, recovered, and ran London. At this point, I've got 4 world majors. I've now fully committed to running all of the world majors. That was going to be the plan. That was happening. No doubt about it. And then Megan and Thomas were in France for Faith running Breaking 4. At that point, we're in conversations. Thomas then says, do you want to run Chicago? And I said, do I want to run Chicago? Of course I want to run Chicago. They spoke to the Nike team, and Nike granted me a place. Now, this episode is supported by Nike. Not because they've paid me, but this is my way of saying thank you for the Chicago experience. Now, why? Chicago Marathon. Actually, wait. Let's rewind. We've skipped out Sydney. My friend Josh, who works at Sports Direct, called me and said, Aubrey, we've been in touch with ASICS. They want to invite you to run Sydney Marathon. I was like, yeah, then let's do it. Let's do it, because Sydney, this time round, has been recently added to be a world major marathon. And so at this point, I'm going to do the 5th star. Chicago is going to be number 6. Okay. So we've done Berlin, New York, Boston, London, and then August 31st, I trained hard for Sydney. Not only did I train hard, I had a goal. So June 8th, I ran Worthing 10K. And I always weigh myself, and I weighed 91.2 kilos. I don't speak pounds, I don't speak stones, apologies, 91.2 kilos. Now, I was happy with being how I was. But the strange thing, you know how when somebody is recording your voice and you get to hear it back yourself? Like, I do this all the time, so I know how I sound. But when you don't, when you hear your own voice, it sounds really weird. It was like that when I watched myself in Film My Runs YouTube video of Worthing 10K. I film myself all the time running, but this was the first time I watched myself on someone else's race vlog, and I couldn't believe I didn't recognize myself in that video. I didn't think I looked the way I looked. So I told myself that was it. I was gonna lose weight. Now, there will be a separate video, YouTube episode, where we talk about weight loss, impact on running and health, and I will break down more specifically why I chose to lose weight and how I did it. But long story short, I told myself I'm gonna get to the Sydney start line at 80 kilos, okay? 11.2 kilos later, I achieved that goal. If you look at me now, even the clothes I wear, like these are the old Aubrey's clothing size. I'm completely different now, completely different. I'm so proud of the change and the transformation I've done. It was very much needed. But having done that weight loss on top of the training that I did, I managed to break my personal best at the marathon from 4:25 in Berlin to 4:15, 10 minutes off. And it was an incredible run. Now, this will set me up to the story I'm about to tell you about Chicago. Berlin is flat, 4:25. Sydney, the elevation is challenging, and I managed 4:15. It was only towards the end where I started cramping up and struggling that I even did 4:15. I was on track to get to 4:10, okay? So when Chicago came about, I told myself I'm gonna carry on with the training and I'm gonna break sub 4, okay? That was the goal. Okay, so now let me go back to telling you about Chicago Marathon. My son and I, we traveled to Chicago. That was on a Thursday we left home. After he finished school, he was off school anyway. The whole school was off on the Friday. So we traveled into London and we stayed at the hotel, had dinner together. First thing in the morning, we were at Heathrow for about 5:30 a.m., 6. We got on a plane and found ourselves in Chicago. Now, my auntie who lives in Chicago picked us up and took us straight to the expo. It was such an amazing experience being there. But the crazy thing about it, and this is why I want to say about being supported by Nike, everything that everyone was looking to buy at the expo, I already had. You know, so the Chicago branded Nike merch, they had sent it to me. Not only that, they sent me this shoe. This is the Vomero Premium. This is the shoe I wore all weekend. It's the shoe I wore getting to the airport, traveling to the airport, traveling to the expo, when I walked around in Chicago. The Nike Vomero Premium, but we'll touch on that when we get to the shoe section of the podcast. We did the expo. I collected my bib and I collected my finishes t-shirt. Excellent. And then Thomas from Believe in a Run met me there and he brought me all of my New Balance merch because I was there to do a shakeout run as part of the Believe in the Run team. We then dropped off Thomas at his Airbnb before heading back to the hotel. Checked in at the hotel. Now here, this part's exciting. Honestly, I don't ever want to come across to you guys as a YouTuber, as an influencer, and you guys forget that at the end of the day, I'm just a guy who had a dream and that dream is coming to fruition and I'm working hard for these experiences. I got to my hotel room and I had my race kit ready for me for Chicago, delivered by Nike. And this is where I got the Nike Alphafly, the premium version in this colorway. And we'll talk about that as well when we get to the shoe section, as well as everything else that I needed for the race itself. Let's talk Saturday. Saturday was the shakeout run. My son and I, we left to go to the Believe in the Run shakeout run. Now, I can't tell you how amazing this was. The place was packed. There were, I think, 4 different entities at this shakeout run. New Balance, Endorphins Run Club, Shocks, and Fleet Feet then partnered up with Believe in the Run, right? So we're all there. And for me, it's mind-blowing that people come to you, ignored me, and started speaking to my son Josiah, talking to him about his 5K PB that he did in Inverness, Scotland. You know, there was a guy who asked me to take a picture, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, oh, no, with me and Josiah. I'm like, oh, okay then, okay. Things like that. It's just mind-blowing. Getting to meet so many people that watch this YouTube channel and telling me how impactful what I'm doing has been to their own running journey. How they've made the videos that I do part of their own running experience. Getting people to ask me to take a picture with me. I'm telling you now, that doesn't get old. I don't care who you are, for me to be asked to take a picture with me. Like, honestly, it may sound cheesy to say, but I don't get it sometimes. I really don't get it. But it's such an honor and a privilege. We took so many selfies with people. They posted to the Instagram stories. I reshared them. One highlight was Greg Itahara. For those that don't know, Greg Itahara is a wizard. If you saw people that get their running singlets customized at these world majors, because I follow Ben Johnson, I've seen when Ben Johnson has had an Itahara customization done. Kofuzi has had Itahara's work. Believe in the run. This guy is basically, to know that you're getting there as a YouTuber, you get your race singlet done by Itahara. Anyway, he customized quite a lot of my tops. Well, let me not lie. Boston. Yeah, the Boston singlet was done by Itahara. This one for Chicago was special. He did a singlet and it had waves on it depicting the energy that I bring to the race events, but it also had stars across it. It had 5 stars running across it. That was to represent 2 things. One, the world majors that I've completed, which I told you about, 5 of them. Berlin, New York, Boston, London, and then Sydney. And then it had another star on its own with a small swoosh. That star on its own represented the Chicago one. The small swoosh in relation to the bigger swoosh, which is also on the singlet, represented my son, Josiah, because he was there with me. The second thing the stars represented are the flag of Chicago. Honestly, man, the guy thought it through and it was just amazing. He handed to me the singlet itself and he explained the story. It's in a YouTube video, which I will link in the caption or the description of this video for you to watch. And more importantly, I got to meet Greg Itahara. I tipped that off as a big win, you know, because the joy in what I do, being on YouTube, being on Instagram, and getting to be familiar with a community, you get to message people, you get to talk with people. But when it jumps out of the screen and it becomes real life, I can't explain to you how beautiful of an experience that is. I really can't. And so meeting Greg Itahara was an absolute joy. Getting to connect with Thomas at the shakeout run, the 2 Megans, Carl, Robbie was there, was just, I can't tell you what it means when you're just a guy like me and suddenly you're part of this big community. It's just mind-blowing. A highlight of that, there is a guy who travels to all these world majors. He lives in Australia and he brought some gifts. The most quirky gifts I have ever received. And that is no exaggeration. I mean, ever. He gave me 2 things. Well, the bag was full of other things, Australian sweets, Vegemite, all sorts of things, right? But 2 particular things. He gave me a coin purse, which you might think is excellent leather. But the coin purse was made from kangaroo scrotum. And then, but the coin purse was refined, really polished leather, right? And then he gave me a bottle opener. The bottle opener was as you would expect it to be. Scrotum, again, not as refined. Oh, man. I tell you, it's a highlight, though. It's really a highlight. And such a joy to actually have such experiences at these world majors. Next, we stopped by the Kofuzi shakeout run for two reasons. I'm a fan. I'm just a fan of Kofuzi. I highly respect the man's work ethic, but through the Sydney Marathon experience, I got to bond with Mike in a whole different way, and I stopped seeing him as Kofuzi. That honestly is crazy to say because I was just a fan, but I've stopped seeing the guy as Kofuzi. From the Sydney Marathon experience that I had with him, I was really worried in Sydney because I would be by myself. As crazy as that sounds, you're being flown with the brand. I had people that I know were also there, but it can be very lonely. And sometimes it's that loneliness that helps me put out my work because I do what I do in the day. When I get back to the hotel room, I'm by myself. I focus, head down, I edit videos, and I'm able to release vlogs, daily vlogs. The day I fly out, the shakeout run, the race vlog, what happened after, so I worried that I was going to be lonely, but Mike kind of invited me to all these things he was doing. We had dinner, we had post-race drinks, me and Mike, and I just enjoyed it. And it's a privilege that you can meet someone like that and you can support them. I didn't have anything to do with the shakeout run he was doing. I didn't attend the run itself. I just wanted to be there for him. And so Josiah and I went over there and we supported him just simply by showing our faces. To me, that counted for a lot. After that, New Balance then opened up their pop-up and we went over there. And such a joy that they gave Josiah his first pair of New Balance running shoes. They gave him a Rebel V5. Amazing. Honestly, amazing. Getting to see Josiah be who he is in that space within his own right. Amazing. And it was a privilege to see. Anyway, we headed back. I had lunch with Lars. Now, Lars, for those of you guys that don't know, there is a brand called SAYSKY. You really have to check out this brand. I'm wearing the Puma SAYSKY collaboration hoodie. This is the first collaboration. They've done a second one. The second episode on this channel, the next episode of this podcast, that's the feature topic. Lars, Puma SAYSKY, that's the next topic we're going to talk about. But anyway, I got to have lunch with Lars. Now, let me step back and tell you why this is significant. He is the CEO, the founding CEO of SAYSKY. Okay? That's not small. That's not small that I'm having lunch with the guy that founded and is the boss at SAYSKY. Okay? That's a big deal because when I started running, these are the brands you get to find out about. These are the brands you get to go, do you know what? I want to, and I'm having lunch. Nike, right? Nike is the brand you don't lie to me. Whatever sport you follow, you know about Nike. And there I am traveling to go run a marathon with this brand. Here I am messaging and having lunch with Lars. Again, I approached my interactions with Lars way before as the CEO. I was now having lunch with my friend. That's mad. Do you realize how mad that is? That's crazy. Let me tell you he won't want me to say this. He won't want me to say this. He will probably hate me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's important that you guys know. I know this episode is supported by Nike, and I will talk to you about what's happened with Nike after I tell you this bit. So we go to this place called Whole Foods, right? And we sit down and we're having our food. And I say to Lars, Lars, let me tell you what I like about you. You've made me forget that you're the CEO. You've made me forget that you're SAYSKY. You're chatting with my son, almost like his uncle. You're talking to me, asking me about my vision. Now, don't get me wrong. Other people would be doing this just to make sure that, we can get this guy to create content for our brand. Wasn't one of those kind of conversations, I promise you now. And I told him the reason I said yes to some of the collaborations I'm doing with you is because of you. And there is another guy, his name is Antonio. It's because of these two people. They've become friends. And your humility, Lars, the way you talk to me and make me forget that you're the CEO, you're the founding CEO, is the reason I'm even sitting here with having lunch. You have a humility about you that you could just be my friend. Mind you, I'm eating, right? I've got my plate in front of me, knife and fork. I turn around and this guy is in tears, right? He's crying. Josiah goes, what's wrong, Dad? And then Lars's friend says to Josiah, they're happy tears. Now, I don't know what was going on with Lars. Lars then says, I don't get told that often. Man, at this point, I'm rocked as well, but I held it together. We had this moment where I realized that this guy just actually wants to be my friend. And it was a very touching moment. But I'll get to that when we touch on the SAYSKY episode. We'll get to that. We left each other. Oh, wait. No, how am I going to forget this? Now, my friend Mo had sent me gels that I was going to use at Chicago. I forgot the gels back here in England. I didn't realize that until we were leaving the hotel, coming to have lunch with Lars. And I say, Lars, I'm sorry I can't stay too long because I need to go back to the expo to go get some Morton gels. Lars then says, hold my beer. Boom, 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 starts texting a guy. Long story short, we arranged it with Multi from Morton, and they brought me my gels. Now, listen here. I'm not talking about just gels for the marathon itself. My guy brought enough for me to open up a shop. And I'm thinking, what's going on? This is what I'm saying. The favor, the kindness that these people will show you, man. Like, I couldn't believe it. His friend, Lars's friend, Max, had bought tickets to the finishing stands for his family to be there to watch him as he finishes. His family didn't make it to Chicago. He then goes, here, Josiah can have tickets to go in the finishing stands. I'm like, what? What craziness is this? Okay. But we ended up not using those tickets because Josiah was going to be with the Believe in the Run guys. I'll get to that. Anyway, we finished dinner. And me and Josiah went to film an Instagram reel, and then we shut down to get ready. No. Then I go to this restaurant to go meet Multi for my gels. Then I shut down for the marathon. I'm leaving for the marathon, and on my way there, I'm walking to the train station. There is a guy, his name is Graham. Graham, if you get to see this, a big hello. He stops me and says, hey, you're Aubrey. I'm like, yep. I ran Osaka with you. I was like, oh, wow. That's crazy. That hello in the morning put me in a whole different mindset. It reminded me again of what I'm doing. Anyway, we get on the train and I meet Mac. So Mac is another YouTuber from here in the UK. I get to the race village and I meet another guy. And all of it kind of just put me in this mindset that confirmed that this is way bigger than just running a marathon. This is why I call the channel what I do. Anyway, let's put all that mellow, emotional stuff aside and talk about the marathon itself. Right. The goal was I'm gonna run my first ever sub-4 marathon. At this point, I've been messaging with my friend Dan. Now, Dan is the only reason I used to work with ProDirect. This guy then has become a friend. He then goes, yeah, do you know what, man? My training hasn't gone well. I'm going to be running, but I'm running with one of my friends, Katie. We're going to chase a sub-4. Let's go. He calls me that morning while I'm at the race village. Where you at? I'm like, I'm already in the corral. I'm in corral H. Okay, don't worry about it. We're in G. I'm like, listen, I'm stepping back. So I stepped back. I went into corral G, met up with Dan and Katie, and we were going to do our sub-4, right? At this point, Katie is locked and loaded with the pacing plan, and we're going. Let me now talk to you about how the run itself went, where it went wrong, and what I think went right, okay? The goal to run sub-4, I needed to run 5:41 per K pace. That's fast for a marathon, okay? Fast for me, but that's what we're gonna do. In miles, it was 9:08 or 9:09 minute miles. We get going. I run my fastest ever 5K in a marathon, my fastest ever 10K, 15, 20. I set a PB for my 30K run, okay? We were on track, bro. We were doing this and it was going. Until it wasn't. I had a hamstring cramp like I've never had before, okay? There I am going, you know what? I've trained hard. Skinny Aubrey. Oh, by the way, at this point, I'm now at 76 kilos. I'm in the best shape of my life, running the best marathon of my life, but boom, breaks, cramp. My right hamstring was first to go. I say, Dan, I didn't want to tell you, I didn't want to vocalize this, but I've got a cramp. I stopped. To my surprise, Dan stops. I'm like, Dan, what's going on? Don't worry, I'm staying with you. Katie went. That's simply because we had a chat before. We said, Katie, I want you to go. If I slow down, I want you to go. Please also give me the freedom that should you slow down, we all go. So at this point, I'm expecting everyone to keep going. Dan says, no, I'm going to stay with you. We'll look out for you. Katie's gone. We get going again. I start hobbling. Eventually, we're back. Breaks. The other side on the hamstring, cramp. Now I've got 2 cramps, okay? It wasn't just on this side. They're both back and they're attacking in anger. Now, the crazy thing about muscles is for every movement. So for example, if you look at your arm, for you to bend at the elbow, it's your bicep contracting to bring your arm up, okay? So your elbow can bend. But as it does that, your tricep on the opposite side is stretching. So if you want to stretch your tricep, you bend your arm, it stretches that, okay? But remember, as you're stretching your tricep, the bicep on the opposite side is contracting, right? So I'm there stretching my hamstrings. Remember, your quads, the opposite side, they're contracting and boom, I now have, I'm laughing now, but trust me, I've never been in pain like I was in pain from cramps at this point. So I've got 2 cramps in my hamstrings and now they're developing in my quads. We start running and now I'm just cramping out. We slow it right down. And I start running again and I promise you, I have never felt my heart rate or my heart itself doing what it started to do. I was starting to have palpitations. I've never had this before. I looked at my watch. I was running slower than zone 2, but with my heart rate at 193 beats per minute. Let me explain. I was running slower than my zone 2 pace, whilst my heart rate was in zone 5. I then started seeing stars. Now, mind you, it suddenly got hot. That's one. But I think I'm not going to beat around and lie to you guys. I had pushed myself further than I had done before in terms of this pace. Then it's hot. Then these cramps. And then my heart went. And we're starting to see people getting stretchered off the course. And there was a lady me and Dan saw that had two people who had to run to her because she started sort of shaking, and you could see she's about to fall. Two other runners then run, and she put her arms around these two runners. Now, mind you, I got a family to come back to. Dan's like, listen, slow it down. Stop. And at this point, Dan, I had a handheld bottle, and Dan took this handheld bottle and was refilling it with water for me. Dan was getting water to pour over me. Dan was by my side and walking with me as we went. And he told me about his friend Chris, who had passed away 2 weeks prior. And he had written on his arm for Chris. And he said to me, that taught me a lot. Yes, it would have been great to give you a PB, Aubrey, but you know what? You're running Chicago. And it's in the race vlog too, where he says, imagine telling the Aubrey 3 years ago about what you're doing right now. And honestly, just stop for a second. That Aubrey could not run 5 minutes without having to stop. That Aubrey never had dreams of running a 5K, a 10K. That Aubrey for sure wasn't going to mess around and run a marathon, let alone a world major marathon, let alone being brought there by the Nike brand. Tell that Aubrey about what you're doing now. And once you fully get it in your head, you're going to be all right with walking. And so we walked. This was at the 22-mile mark, and we walked. There were times we then ran, but then came back to it. And we realized something. Aubrey, you're not getting this PB. And Dan was like, you know what? Soak it in. And so we started paying attention to the bands. We started talking to people, chatting with other runners. And we finally got through. I didn't get the PB I wanted. I got the PB I needed. Because at the 20-mile mark, for the first time at these marathons, at these running events, I got to that 20-mile mark and my son Josiah was there. It was a very emotional moment. My son Josiah was there. We have a handshake that we do. I gave him that. And I gave him a hug at mile 20. And it's a very touching moment. If you haven't had a chance to see the race vlog, which I'll also link to this video and at the end, the comments on that video are, you had me crying at the 20-mile mark when you saw your son. And I gotta tell you, man, the PB can wait. The PB can wait. Heck, even if it doesn't happen. What happened at Chicago Marathon in those 2 moments, running with Dan and seeing my son Josiah, was the PB I needed. I couldn't believe it. We got to the end. I got to see my friend Ben Felton. Ben is running. He had broken his marathon PB. I just couldn't help but be so happy for that man. Just so happy for him. Anyway, let me talk to you about Josiah's experience. I left the hotel. Then the guy went downstairs to have breakfast by himself. So proud of that. He took the initiative. I didn't talk him through what to do. He got dressed, had breakfast, and the Megans picked him up from the hotel. The guys from Believe in the Run picked him up, and they all went together to mile 20. The stories he told me of how well they looked after him, especially Robbie, who played with him. I think they played a game. And then, oh yeah, I finished and he says, Robbie comes up to me like, dude, don't be mad at me, but we were eating stuff off the floor. I was like, I don't know what happened, but hey, crack on, crack on. It boosts his immune system. Anyway, that was my Chicago Marathon. I eventually finished at a time of 4:42. Definitely not sub 4, but I enjoyed myself. I really did. It was the time of my life when we suddenly put aside our time goal. It was the time of my life having to travel to Chicago for the first time and bringing my son Josiah to the States for the first time, getting to see the guys that believe in the run, getting to run with Dan, and getting to work with the Nike brand for the first time. Let's touch on that. They gave me my place. After the race itself, we got back to the hotel and I invited the two guys that hosted us. Her name is Erin, and there's another guy, Chad, who didn't make it. And Erin brought Kelsey. They came together with Drew to our hotel because I invited them to come and have a drink with us for two reasons. They had sent Josiah some shoes. They had sent me these shoes. They had sent me the bib and hosted us. I have to tell you, man, there's kindness and there is what these people did. So Nike did an amazing job in hosting us. But what Erin and Chad did, I promise you, just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. All right. Now let's talk about the two shoes that I have. I'm going to start with the Nike Vomero Premium. In this section of my podcast, I talk about shoes that I've ran in or shoes that I want to spotlight. I call this the fake it till you make it section. Here's what I mean. I pretend as if the brands I'm talking about have sponsored this podcast. They haven't. I'm not there yet, but one day they will. So let's start with the Nike Vomero Premium. Whilst I was there, Nike formally launched the Vomero Premium. However, I had this shoe yonks before that. Before release. This is what I'm saying to you. I can't believe this is happening. Now, other YouTubers have earned the right to do this, as have I. And to them, some of them anyway, it's become normal to have shoes before launch. It's not normal for me, for the Nike brand, to not through a retailer, not through a friend, but the Nike brand themselves sending me shoes before they're released. Now, at the bottom of here, of the shoe, it tells you it's 55 millimeters. 55 millimeters at the back. Do you not? It even says on there at the back, not approved by World Athletics, because World Athletics, the shoe has to be 40 millimeters. This is 55, and it's 45 at the front. 10 millimeter drop. But it's the makeup of this shoe that I like. It's fully ZoomX and it's got these two AirPods. Now I gotta tell you, the comfort in this shoe is what made it to be my Chicago shoe. Not the marathon shoe, but the whole experience. When I left on Thursday, flying on Friday, when I went around Saturday and Sunday at the expo, post-run, the Monday after when we left, I'll touch on that in a little bit. It's this shoe. Simply because of the comfort. In terms of running, I've reviewed this shoe. You can watch that review on my main YouTube channel. You will catch it there. Fine. So go ahead and find it there for the review. But I brought it there simply for the comfort. I'm going to make a very big, bold statement. Now, it's hard to believe my statement because of working with Nike for this trip. So take it how you want it. I love Max Cushion shoes. When it comes to comfort alone, just comfort alone, not speed, not performance for running, comfort alone. I don't own a shoe more comfortable than this, the Nike Vomero Premium. Simple. All right, Alphafly. I'm late to the party. I recently broke my 10K fastest 10K personal best. It stood at 48:20 before Loch Ness 10K, where I took it to 47:50. Recently, very recent. In this shoe, the Alphafly 3, not this particular pair. And so when I ran Chicago, we were going sub 4. I asked the guys at Nike, this is going to be the shoe. They were kind enough to then send me this shoe because the singlet I was wearing kind of matches that. And this particular pair is what I ran in. Great shoe. I'm late to the party with the Alphafly series, but great shoe. What I like though, whilst in Chicago, Conor Mantz broke the American record for the marathon. And he ran in a prototype of the next version of this shoe. I am hopeful that I will try out that shoe and give you guys the experience. But the Alphafly 3, the one thing that baffles me about this shoe is this shoe came out 2 years ago. And it's still competing with race day shoes coming out today. When you go to any start line, whether it's a 5K, 10K, half, full marathon, people wear Alphafly 3s, especially with brands like Shoe Socks, catering to the different colorways. And Nike is still releasing new colorways of this shoe. That's the thing that baffles me the most, that it's been this long since it's been out, and it's still a killer shoe. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. What makes it killer? Full Zoom X. This Air Zoom unit at the front in combination with the fly plate, honestly, just mind-blowingly good. The laces are those teethed ones, the upper with, it's just amazing in terms of the breathability, the resilience, and it's 2 years old. Nike did well in this shoe, and I'm excited to see what the fourth version is. What don't I like about it? The price. $285, I want to say, is expensive. The second thing, and you can still see right now, boom, here. It's got this trench here, and it picks up stones. I left it in there just to highlight that. Because one thing I don't want to do is just speak nice things about things and not give you guys a full picture. I think that is another downside. Lastly, third, you can hear anyone wearing an Alphafly 3 coming from behind you because it's quite noisy the way it slaps. And to me, that is at least one downside. So those three things: the price, I don't like the trench here because you do kind of trap stones in there, as well as the sound. If I'm gonna be picky and give you another disadvantage, I feel like newer race day shoes have got a bit more range in them in terms of what you can do. I'm currently running in New Balance's SC Elite V5. I ran a Zone 2 run in that shoe. I ran intervals in that shoe, and it performs very well. Whereas I feel like this is one gear and one gear only, and that is fast. Okay. The next thing I promised you we will talk about this Bob and Brad massage gun. Now, the reason why I think this is worth talking about, Bob and Brad as the brand, they are a pillar. They are a pillar in this community. They reached out to me about sending me this thing for review, and I said yes. Simply because I don't know what it is, but it comes across as Bob and Brad are a rite of passage for a YouTuber. If you haven't been offered a Bob and Brad massage gun, you're not yet qualified to be a YouTuber. At least offered, right? That's a joke, by the way. Don't go canceling me because I said that. Now, it's one thing trying to support a brand because of who they are, but supporting a brand because of excellence. That's the reputation here. Don't get me wrong, I've got other massage guns. My favorite one is Therabody's ones. I like that massage gun. In fact, I had it in my finishers bag at Chicago Marathon so that it was ready for me to use after I'd run. The one thing that this is much better at than that, the first thing we have to acknowledge is the size. The size of the Bob and Brad massage gun, this thing, like, come on, man, look at that. That's crazy. The second thing, that massage gun I just told you about does an excellent job of massaging you. Whereas, and I'm sorry for people listening to this on the audio, you obviously won't be able to see the size when I say look at this thing. But just know you hold it in one hand and you can literally cover it with that one hand. But the one thing that I like, this is not just, pardon me, this is not just the massage gun physically massaging you, but it's hot and cold. So with the heat attachment, you can then attach this attachment to it. Let me just remove the film and boom, there you have it. Connected to there, boom. And USB-C charging. And you also then can charge this part to give you that heat. Press here to get it going, bang. It's got, wait, let me turn this off so you guys can hear me. It has an indicator at the back over here to tell you how much battery it is. I haven't fully studied the whole thing. That will come on a review. And I would love to repay them for sending me this thing by not only integrating this in a specific video, but I'm gonna review this specifically on its own video. Anyway, let's talk about it. So it's got two separate switches. You have a switch for the massage gun itself. You then have this attachment, which is the hot and cold massager. You've got a switch over here on one side. That is the heat. Oh, I'm actually feeling it now. That's pretty quick. Anyway, this part here gets super hot. Or you've got a switch on the other side for the cold. So it's a hot and cold treatment massage gun. If you don't want any of that on, you can switch it off. Boom. And then take this out, but this part also needs charging, type C, and then you can replace it with the different attachments. So you've got a deep tissue kind of attachment, your standard massage gun kind of vibe, or you've got these particular ones that kind of get into specific areas, all of it. So you've got 4 different attachments, 4 different standard attachments, and then you've got the hot and cold treatment massage gun. But as I say, oh yeah, and then separately, you've got the charging cable that comes with it in a very protected case. I will review this more specifically and use it, give you guys an opinion, look at the price. Is it worth getting, or should you just get Therabody one, or should you get one of those cheapy ones off Amazon? As my way of saying thank you to the guys for sending me this, I'm gonna do a full review, so expect that. Right, last section, I always spotlight a YouTube channel that you should check out. And for the first one, it goes without saying, I gotta talk about my buddy, Jason's Running. He ran Berlin again. And within the Berlin vlog, he gave me a very heartfelt and profound shout out, which I really appreciated. But I wanted to say this. I think he's close to closing to 800 subscribers. I would like for us to just rally around the guy. Honestly, he's a lovely guy, really is lovely. And for Berlin, he pays his missus, which is really, really cool. I would love to get him to 1,000 subscribers. So, I'm gonna keep his name in my mouth for the next upcoming episodes. As this channel grows, when we get to this section, I'm gonna tell you exactly what Jason has been up to and ask you to just go over, check him out, and subscribe to his channel. Simply because he genuinely has become a friend. I'm trying to arrange a time when I go over to Ireland, when they've got a few events, and run together with him, even if it happens to be a family trip that we take over there and do a park run with him. Please check out Jason's Running and support and subscribe. Lastly, I want to thank you for taking time to watch this. Please do subscribe to this channel. It's new. It's going to house the live streams as well as the podcast. Thank you for checking it out. I'll see you in a bit.